So what are we looking at? This is the new MAQ Sunburst Visual for Power BI. It was presented during the latest Power BI update. In that video there were a couple of custom visuals that were presented, and one of the visuals was this sunburst diagram or sunburst chart. And what you can do is you can do a whole lot of cool things here, and you probably are most interested in how to create your own. Well, two things. This is going to be a template that you can get when you are a newsletter subscribee, but let's dive into how to create this custom visual. Alright, so here we are with a blank Power BI desktop file. First thing we need to do is we got to get that sunburst visual, the one that MAQ created. So let's go into import for marketplace, or import from marketplace, of course. And once that's loading, I'll type sunburst, and here we have two options, and one was created recently by the MAQ Software guys. So let's create one. I'll add it, and as soon as the import is completed, we have our new nice visual here. Now I want to have this file being shareable, so we're not going to connect directly to a source, but I'm going to create a parameter. So let's click on Edit Queries, and this way when you subscribe to the newsletter you get this file and you can import your own PWA, and you would be ready to go to create your own wonderful sunburst based on the resource breakdown structure, because that is what we saw, right? The resource breakdown structure is this very good tree structure that you can ideally use with a sunburst. So let's create a parameter. I'll call it new, and I'll call this PWA URL. Let's put an underscore there. Makes some sense. So it's type text. It has any value, and I'll paste the URL of our organization in there. So yes. So now that I have my parameter, you can use this parameter to fill in your own PWA, and I'll template this so you'll be prompted right away with entering your PWA environment. Let's click on Manage Parameter, and I'll add a description here as well. Please put in your PWA site URL. Click on OK. So that is the prompt that you will get, and now we're going to build our new queries, and I'm going to trick it a little bit because I already have that parameter here, or that source here, and I'm going to switch that up with the parameters. So right from the start, what we're going to do is I'm going to grab the resources. Hold on, resources, and I'm going to get the assignment time phase dataset. Let's click on OK, and it's going to load, and we're going to manipulate the data a little bit, where first off I'm going to change the URL that's here with the parameter so that it will help you create your own PWA underscore URL and quote. That's going to change it. Let's see if that works. And it did. Awesome. So going into source here, doing the same thing for this source. PWA, hold on. PWA underscore URL and quote. Let's see if that works as well. And there you go. Both now are linked up to the PWA URL, and you can switch any URL there now as long as it has a resources table and an assignment time phase dataset, you'll be safe. So let's click on choose columns. We're going to shuffle this a bit, where I'm going to at least have the project UID, I'll have the time by day, I'll have the assignment cost in here, so, or assignment work, assignment work, and resource UID, and that's all I need for now. And I'm going to remove the zero values for assignment work. Actually, I'm going to change this. I'm not going to use the assignment work. I'm going to use the remaining work. Remaining work. And why I'm going to do that? Because otherwise it will blow up out of proportions, and I'm really only interested in what is still to come in this sunburst that we're going to create. So let's remove the zeros again, and you'll see that everything is almost in the future. There's still some things that we haven't completed yet, but that's because people have forgotten to timesheet probably. So let's get over to the resources, and let's click on choose columns here as well. We'll need the resource UID, and we need the RBS, obviously, because that's going to be our dial, and we're going to get the resource names. That's also interesting, and that's it. So very easy, very nice, and I see a lot of names that aren't here yet, here anymore. So I'm going to change a little bit. I'm going to click on the resources generic, and I'm going to click on active. Resources active. Alright. So I'm going to click on resources active is true, and I do not want to have generic resources, so this is false. So now I would have roughly 60. Alright, yes. That makes a lot of sense. That's the team. Let's click on the null values for the RBS, and that way I would have 54 resources, which is the total organization of Projectum at the moment, it seems. Alright, so that's me there. Alright, let's click on close and apply. I got my data set ready. Let's make sure that the connections are correct. Yeah, and just while this is loading, I just remembered something. I also want to split the RBS to different values, because I want to have the first value being the first layer of the dial, and the second layer would be the team. So I'm going to need to change this, but let's speed this up where it is going to refresh. So now that it is refreshed, let's jump back into the edit queries for just a bit, where I'm going to go into the resources, and I'm going to split the RBS value. So here we have the RBS, and what you see here is that Denmark and the Netherlands will be in here, as well as the team members. So let's split this with the delimiter being the dot. So split by delimiter, and it will automatically find the dot there, and I'll just click on OK. I'm going to rename this to country, and I'm going to rename this to team, and we have a couple of null values that I'm going to replace. So I'm going to replace values. I'm going to say null replace with HQ. And now I have no more strange values here. So I'm going to click on close and apply. Once the changes have been applied, I will be able to have a look at the relationship, and out of the box it doesn't show me the relationship, which I find weird because I actually do have the resource ID here and the resource ID there. It might be because I have that set not to find automatically not to find the relationships automatically, but I don't think that's the case. Anyway, we now have them linked up, which basically means that when I find a resource, I will automatically also find the remaining work for that resource in that time frame. Great. So let's go and build that Sunburst, because that's why you're here, right? So let's create two right from the start, because I want to have them interact with each other. So here's the first one. There's a nice description here, and I'll grab this one. And the new interface sometimes is a bit more difficult to grab a visual, but that's just me learning. So here we go. We go. Alright. So first off, this is going to be a very simple one where I say, alright, we have the resource name, we have the country, we have the team, and we have the resource name being the values. Great. So now this shows up pretty nicely. It also has the count in the center. It's going to count, and I also want to have the resource being here as well. Great. So now I see immediately that the Dutch team has 5 resources, which is me and my colleagues, of course. I can click on it and it will interact, and we'll see that interact in a moment with the other Sunburst here. Right from the start, this is a nice visual, right? Where it has the 2 countries as a delimiter, and I can change a couple of things here, which I'm very happy about. Is I can go into the format pane, and I can remove the legend because I'm not interested in it. I can change the data colors, which I would do any other day. The data labels. One of the things that I'm a bit frustrated about with MAQ here is that these aren't readable anymore. So HQ is upside down, team LST, who's that? Team M. You need to turn your head, and is that something that is so difficult to have that corrected? But that might be in the next iteration of the tool. Who knows, right? So the totals is interesting to see. That's the middle section there. I'm going to increase the size a bit, and I'm also going to increase the size of the data labels so that that's more readable. Yeah, that looks great. Then configuration, and this is where I think it's going to be very fun. So the corner radius changes the corners of each of the petals in the Sunburst visual. So let's change it to 8, and you immediately see that it looks a lot friendlier, I think. So padding between the arcs. So let's see if I put that on a 5. That's way too much. Let's put that on a 2, maybe a 1. I think the 2 was nicer. So here you have a nice little visual, and we can work with that. Now one of the things here is the animation. Have a look. If I click on this and I click on PHB, what happens is it focuses on PHB, which is very cool. So this visual now focuses on the Denmark section, and now it includes the Dutch. So if we focus on the Netherlands, and it would have 2 teams, it would have those 2 teams here, but now it shows the whole Dutch team right away. Same for PK's team. And it is a very cool visual. It looks great, and even with the padding and the with the padding that I created here and the corner radius, that looks awesome. But I'm going to turn it off for now because we're going to come back to this. Let's have a title here. So let's call this team structure RBS, so that everyone knows that this is based on the RBS. Set this to the middle, have that a little bit bigger, so now everyone knows that this is the team structure that RBS builds. I'm going to increase the size of both of these visuals. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create another Sunburst, and it's going to look a bit different. Bear with me. So what we're going to do is I'm going to grab the team, and I'm going to grab the resource names, and right down below I'm going to add the assignment resource, assignment remaining work. Cool. So I'm going to remove the big blank here. I basically, at the moment, I don't know what the blank means, but let's get that out of here. And the new filter pane, I love it. I don't know how it works all the way yet, so I really need to learn that in the near future, I guess. So filters on this page, and I'm going to say, okay, well, blanks I'm going to remove. Great. So right now I got this nice little visual where I see which team has the most remaining or outstanding work, and that's team CHF and team PFJ. Great. So when I focus on this one, it automatically shows me PHB team, and this is the MAL team. Now the totals doesn't add up, so I'm going to change that a bit. I like that I can change visuals here and it still remains on the other visual that I actually just created. Like the changes that Microsoft did there. So I'm going to get not the data labels, but I'm going to remove that legend again. That doesn't make any sense. The totals I will need to change, and I'll set this to none, so that I know that there's 514 hours still remaining. I'm going to increase that a bit, and let's see what happens if we have the whole team here. That looks great. So I have 40,000 hours remaining, and I know that this is remaining work because I have that as a variable here, as a measure. So let's return here, and let's change the title again, where I now say, okay, this is remaining work by team. And there we go. Increase the size a bit. And here we go. This looks great. Alright. Now I can focus here and it will change this one. But have a look at what happens when I turn on the animation of this visual, because currently this one will change. So there's an animation happening here that's not called an animation because it is actually a filter happening. As soon as I select the PHB guys, I will get this visual because this is a filter that's happening. But when I select this visual and I turn on the animation, it doesn't seem to pick this up anymore as being a filter, because here it just remains. So I really like this visual, but it is a visual. It is not a filter anymore. So that is where I see some improvements that could happen with the MAQ guys, where one of them is the text that should be readable not going upside down all the time. And the other is, if you have an animation, let's make that a filter as well, or let's get that as an option here. That would make my life even better than it already is. So let's turn that animation off again, and let's see that. So PHB, mal, CHF, and we're all here. And just to let you know, yes, the Dutch team is also working, and I'm pretty much booked, but then again, some of the guys are on a holiday. That doesn't count, right? And this is remaining work in a PWA environment, and I don't know the ins and outs of that PWA environment, so let's keep it at that. But this is a very cool and very nice visual, wouldn't you agree? I can do another thing here. I could add, for instance, if I have the team here, and I click on decrease the size here, and I create a filter based on this, I can have that as a drop down, and I can select a team here, and from this moment on I can just select one of the teams here and another one of the teams, and both of the visuals will actually change, which is very nice. And another thing that I can do is I can add the time by day as being a filter as well. Let's have that up in here, and I used to have to drop down. Here we go. So let's have that as a relative one, and I say, well, let's select the next month, and here you see that there is a very nice clean overview here from now on, which is nice because here you see that less people are selected because less people have remaining work in the upcoming month. Gerwin dropped off the radar here, and a couple of other people, and now it's more focused on the actual resources, or the actual what we call them, consultants, right? So in the next year we see a lot more happening here, but this makes excellent sense, where I can see in the next 2 months I will have this many hours remaining in the future. And if we select the last 2 months, I see that there are still people that didn't complete the remaining work. So that makes a lot of sense to have a report based on this, so that you will know, okay, well, people need to write their time, or project managers need to update their schedules. So that makes a lot of sense. So I'll change the name of this page, Sunburst Demo Project Online RBS. So as promised, this is going to be a template that you will be able to grab as soon as you have yourself as a member of the newsletter, and I'll put a link in the show note on how to be that. This was it, basically, the new Sunburst Visual by MAQ, and it was presented during the last Power BI update, and I really like those videos. They're doing a really good job on increasing what Power BI as a whole means, and getting some attention on custom visuals that other companies make for them. So I really like this. Good job, guys. MAQ, you're doing an awesome job. Continue to work. And this is it for me. If you like this video, please consider subscribing and clicking that like button. It helps the channel a lot. And I hope to see you again in 2 weeks.